While countless eyes were focused on the Universe Alliance headquarters and Lin Feng was very calm. Just as those divine emperors had speculated, he was indeed deducing the principle of time. As the principles manifested one after another, the cosmos shook. In the dark, it was as if an invisible force was brewing. Lin Feng did not use the miniature eye of the universe, because there was no need. He was currently deducing the principle of time. He only needed to organize all the principles properly. Then, perhaps he would be able to find traces of the principle of time. 10 principles, 100 principles, 1,000 principles. When Lin Feng manifested 2,999 principles, the entire universe seemed to be under his control. The reason was very simple. The entire universe was actually composed of countless principles. Be it time, life, space, or all kinds of miraculous items, it was due to principles that everything was slowly derived and perfected, eventually forming a vibrant principle. After Lin Feng completely manifested 2,999 principles, he could clearly sense that he was still missing a principle, and that principle pointed straight at the principle of time. Eye of the universe. Lin Feng took a deep breath. The 2,999 principles instantly fused together. Boom! Lin Feng sensed that the entirety of time seemed to have changed. The entire universe seemed to have changed. Everything around him had become principles. The 2,999 principles represented everything. Lin Feng felt as if he had vaguely touched the principle of time, but it was only faintly discernible. It was as if there was a faint power blocking Lin Feng from touching the principle of time. After an unknown period of time, the miniature eye of the universe gradually dissipated. The 2,999 principles also disappeared. The entire universe returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. Many cultivators who were paying close attention to Lin Feng's every move were at a loss. Had Lin Feng succeeded or failed? Supremacy must have failed, right? He comprehended 2,999 principles out of 3,000. But he's missing the most important principle. There's no hope of transcendence. The principle of time. Since ancient times, there has been no description, no trace, as if it doesn't exist. It's too difficult to comprehend it. Even someone with such aptitude as supremacy failed? Has supremacy really failed? Many cultivators still could not believe it, especially those divine emperors. Their faces were filled with disappointment. They had thought that they could personally witness the strongest supremacy in the universe in history transcend. Unfortunately, he still failed. He had failed before even beginning to transcend. The principle of time seemed to be the only obstacle stopping Lin Feng. Swoosh! Lin Feng opened his eyes and looked at the vast cosmos in the distance. But a complex look appeared in his eyes. You're stopping me. Why? Lin Feng muttered softly, his gaze seemingly very complicated. Could he not comprehend the principle of time? Actually, that was not necessarily the case. When Lin Feng used the 2,999 principles to deduce the principle of time just now, he had clearly found a clue. It felt as if he was about to deduce the principle of time. Unfortunately, his effort fell short at the final lap. Moreover, Lin Feng vaguely understood the reason. At every critical moment, there seemed to be a mysterious and powerful force that prevented him from deducing the principle of time. The principle of time was hazy and abstract. Although it was right in front of him, Lin Feng could never touch it. The key lay in the universe's will. That's right. When Lin Feng was deducing the principle of time just now, he had already sensed a faint will preventing him from touching the principle of time. This will seemed to be all-powerful, without any emotion or life. It was like a deity, mysterious, vast, and profound. There was even a sense of supremacy, the will of the universe. This was the will of the universe. The will of the universe was obstructing Lin Feng from comprehending the principle of time, but why was the will of the universe obstructing him? Lin Feng looked at the cosmos silently. He had once asked Langda if the will of the universe could be communicated with, but Langda said no. Just now, Lin Feng had also sensed the will of the universe. He had even tried to communicate with it. Unfortunately, there was no response. However, the will of the universe prioritized the absolute benefits of the universe. In other words, since the will of the universe prevented Lin Feng from comprehending the principle of time, it meant that the principle of time might be related to the secret of the universe. If one comprehended the principle of time, it was very likely that it would harm the entire universe. This way, it would probably become very difficult for Lin Feng to comprehend the principle of time. Using at least 2,999 principles to deduce the principle of time would not work. There's not much time left. I can only place my hopes on the sacred stone of anathema. Lin Feng shook his head. If he had more time, he could slowly try to communicate with the will of the universe, or deduce it again and again. He did not believe that he could not deduce the principle of time. Even the law of time would do. Unfortunately, he did not have much time left. Or rather, there was not much time left for the entire origin universe. One has to do their best, and leave the rest to fate. Lin Feng could do nothing. He had already thought of all the methods he could think of to comprehend the principle of time. There was nothing else he could do. He could only keep deducing, hoping to find an opportunity, and even hope to communicate with the will of the universe. He knew that this was very, very difficult, but he had to do it. In the chaos, where chaotic aura was ubiquitous, there was a massive chaotic lifeform. It had 3 heads that looked like wolf, tiger, and horse respectively. It had a pair of wings on its back, and sharp claws at its feet. This was a natural chaotic lifeform called AO. It had a bloodline inheritance in its body, and was a chaotic lifeform by nature. Once it reached adulthood, it would become a true chaotic lifeform. It was savage and enjoyed devouring the origin of universes. Hence, if it discovered an origin universe, it would definitely think of ways to break into the universe and devour the origin of the universe. Moreover, AO was extremely fast. In the chaos, there were many powerful chaotic lifeforms who were proud to tame the AO as their mounts. However, considering AO's extreme speed and its rarity, even if one was encountered, very few experts could subdue AO. After all, it was a true chaotic lifeform. AO had already discovered this origin universe for a long time. It tried to attack the origin universe by force twice, breaking the cosmic membrane each time. However, both times it only extended a claw, and the will of the origin universe mobilized the power of the origin universe to repel it. AO was not very intelligent, but as an innate chaotic lifeform with a bloodline legacy, it still had a certain amount of intelligence. It was very angry that it had failed time and time again. Hence, this time it was completely prepared. After it broke the cosmic membrane, it would definitely descend in its true form. At that time, could even the origin universe stop it? AO spread its wings, and its 3 heads roared at the sky, as if they were accumulating strength. Then, the head in the middle immediately opened its mouth and spat out a ball of flames. These were chaotic flames, which burned and dissolved everything. Even though it was AO's innate ability, it required years of accumulation before it could spit out a little chaotic flames. Hence, the AO was unwilling to use the chaotic flames unless absolutely necessary. But now, in order to completely break the cosmic membrane, it had no choice but to use the chaotic flames accumulated over the years. Boom! As the chaotic flames spewed out, the incomparably durable cosmic membrane instantly began to melt like ice under the sun. A huge hole was burned in the cosmic membrane. AO spread its wings and transformed into a stream of light, instantly flying into the universe from the chaos. At this moment, a chaotic life form descended into the universe. Boom! As AO descended, the entire universe was shaken by the true chaotic life form. In the cosmos, a huge eye of the universe was formed immediately, and a terrifying power of principles was brewing. Boom! 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 In an instant, the power of the principles poured down. That was the power of the entire universe, blasting towards AO in a frenzy. Unfortunately, even the strongest eye of the universe in the origin universe seemed so helpless against a true chaotic life form, and its true form at that. Chaotic aura erupted wildly from AO's entire body as it resisted the bombardment of the eye of the universe head-on. Even though it caused some trouble for AO, it was only trouble. Gore! AO roared at the sky. His 3 heads shook continuously. Then, it opened his mouth and spat a ball of chaotic flames at the giant eye of the universe. Boom! It was as if the cosmos had been pierced. This ball of flames blasted the eye of the universe apart. Countless principles wailed, echoing throughout the entire universe. At the Universe Alliance headquarters, Lin Feng deduced the principle of time again and again. Unfortunately, he failed again and again. There was always an invisible force blocking Lin Feng. That was the will of the universe. It obstructed Lin Feng again and again. Even though Lin Feng kept trying to communicate, it seemed to be useless. What exactly is the will of the universe hiding? What is it afraid of? Lin Feng was puzzled. As Lin Feng was deducing the principle of time, his 2,999 principles seemed to shake all of a sudden, and vaguely became chaotic. Lin Feng suddenly looked up. He sensed that at the end of the distant cosmos, an aura completely different from that of cosmic life form soared, shaking the universe. The chaotic life form has descended? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. In the end, he could not comprehend the principle of time or transcend in time. A calamity had truly arrived. Langda! With Lin Feng's summon, Langda appeared outside the secret chamber. Master, a chaotic life form has descended. Shall we run quickly? Langda's entire body was trembling. As a dignified half-chaotic life form, he was actually so cowardly. Run? My home is in the origin universe. How can I run? Let's go. We have to face it no matter what. This is a calamity. No one can escape. Lin Feng grabbed Langda and took a step forward, instantly entering the spatial passage. A calamity. It's a calamity. A chaotic life form. A life form from the chaos has invaded our universe. It's too strong, too strong. As Ao descended, many divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors sensed it immediately. After all, they had all comprehended principles. When the principles shook all of a sudden, as if they were wailing, they naturally felt it. Or rather, this was the will of the universe. Through the principle of the universe, it intentionally allowed divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors to sense the threat. The will of the universe required the help of many divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors. Hence, some divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors rushed over immediately. However, even though they rushed over immediately, they could only watch helplessly as this terrifying chaotic life form wreaked havoc. This was because no one could resist it. Even when divine emperors tried to attack, they were killed by a casual strike from the chaotic life form. Moreover, the ball of flames spat out by the chaotic life form was even more terrifying. If anyone came into contact with even a little of it, even a divine emperor could not resist it and would be instantly reduced to ashes. The seemingly infinitely huge combat bodies of divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors were useless against this true chaotic life form. Calamity. This was a monstrous calamity that swept through the entire universe. Only the supremacy can contend with it. Where is the universe supremacy? It's impossible for the universe supremacy not to know about such a huge commotion. Could he still be in seclusion? Previously, the supremacy was deducing the principle of time. He has probably already reached the critical moment. If this chaotic life form had arrived a little later and allowed the supremacy to comprehend the principle of time and attempt to transcend, he might have been able to resist this chaotic life form. As for now, the reason why supremacy is so anxious to deduce the principle of time is probably because he already knew about this calamity. At this moment, the first person many cultivators thought of was the universe supremacy, Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng was currently the universe supremacy, the strongest individual in the universe. Apart from Lin Feng, who could contend with this terrifying chaotic life form? Those divine emperors who dominated the universe and dominated the ages could not withstand a single blow from the chaotic life form. Buzz. Suddenly, spatial ripples appeared in the cosmos. Immediately after, a familiar figure stepped out of the spatial passage. The universe supremacy is here. Someone discovered Lin Feng. Hence, many divine emperors and divine venerables flew towards Lin Feng one after another. Greetings, Supremacy. Lin Feng shook his head. Why would he care about these empty formalities now? He immediately looked at the chaotic life form in the cosmos. It had 3 heads and a pair of wings on its back. Its body was not too big and was about 1,000 meters in size. Before the combat bodies of many divine emperors, it was insignificant. However, such a tiny life form could easily defeat countless divine emperors and bring calamity to the entire universe. Even Lin Feng felt a strong threat. Langda, is this a chaotic life form? Lin Feng asked Langda. At this moment, Langda's face was pale. He almost cried as he said, Master, this is a true innate chaotic life form. Moreover, it's the AO which has a trace of the bloodline of chaotic sacred beasts. It's savage, cunning, extremely fast, and enjoys devouring the origin of origin universes. We have actually encountered such a rare chaotic life form. Our luck. Langda truly despaired. The AO was also considered a rare and natural chaotic life form in the chaos. Once every AO appeared, it would even cause battles between some powerful chaotic life forms, just to capture the AO and use it as a mount. However, that only applied to those powerful chaotic life forms who could use AO as a mount. To some origin universes and ordinary half-chaotic life forms like Langda, AO was simply like a natural disaster. When he encountered one, he despaired. Hence, Langda was only filled with despair now. How could the AO have mercy on the origin universe now that they've encountered it? No wonder the chaotic life form had tried to break the cosmic membrane and enter the origin universe time and time again. It turned out that it was a natural chaotic life form, the AO. AO? Lin Feng learned the name of this chaotic life form. He was also carefully observing this chaotic life form. As the first chaotic life form to enter the origin universe, it would be a pity not to observe it carefully. Strangely enough, after this chaotic life form entered the origin universe, it did not take the initiative to attack the living beings in the universe, nor did it have any intention of destroying the entire universe. As long as no one took the initiative to provoke AO, it would be indifferent. There was a sound of wailing. The principles of the universe wailed, and the cosmos shook violently. The 3 heads of AO seemed to be devouring something, causing the entire universe to shake violently. Lin Feng even sensed that the power of the principles in the entire universe had even become very weak, and was constantly weakening. Langda, what is AO doing? Lin Feng vaguely sensed something. Master, AO likes to devour universe origins. It is devouring the universe origin. The universe origin? What will happen to the entire universe without it? Without the universe origin, the entire universe will collapse instantly, turning into a dead universe without any value. Huh? In other words, once the origin of the universe disappears, all life in the universe will die. That's right, everything will die. So, Master, we're finished. We're all finished. Lin Feng finally understood why this was a calamity, and why the will of the universe was indirectly summoning many divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors to resist the AO. The AO was devouring the origin of the universe. Once the origin of the universe was devoured, the entire universe would collapse completely, and there would be no more life. Hence, the principles were wailing, the cosmos was shaking, and even the will of the universe was fearful. Lin Feng could not sit back and do nothing. But could he resist this chaotic life form? Back then, Lin Feng had almost died when facing one of AO's claws. If not for the chaotic lotus seed in his body, Lin Feng would have died. Now that he was facing AO's true form, how could Lin Feng resist it? Transcendence. He had to transcend. Only a transcendent could resist a true chaotic life form. At this moment, as the principles were constantly weakening, forget about Lin Feng, even divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors who had comprehended principles could sense that the power of the principles was constantly weakening. The power of the principles represented the power of the universe. The universe was weakening, so the power of the principles was naturally weakening. There was not much time left for everyone in the universe. Swoosh! Lin Feng suddenly raised his head. He stared straight into the depths of the cosmos, at the manifested principles. At this moment, he seemed to feel the helplessness of the universe and the fear of the universe's will. Giving me a chance is giving the universe a chance. Either I comprehend the principle of time, and I attempt to transcend, or the chaotic lifeform devours the origin of the universe, and the universe becomes completely dead. The choice lies with you, will of the universe. Lin Feng's voice echoed majestically in the cosmos, passing through countless principles and echoing into the depths of the universe. Communicating with the will of the universe was something Lin Feng had tried countless times, and also an incomparably insane thing. Previously, Lin Feng had never succeeded. The will of the universe was like an unfeeling program and would not respond at all. However, just now Lin Feng had clearly sensed the fear of the will of the universe. It turned out that the will of the universe could also feel fear. It was not like the unfeeling program that he had previously thought. Hence, Lin Feng was making one last attempt now. Lin Feng's voice spread throughout the cosmos, echoing for a long time. Lin Feng did not know if the will of the universe would respond, let alone if they could truly communicate. However, this was all he could do. All he could do was wait quietly. He would either succeed or die trying. The divine emperors looked at Lin Feng, who was motionless, as if he was talking to himself. All of them fell silent. Even the universe supremacy was indifferent. Or rather, even the universe supremacy was not its match. What hope did they have? As for what Lin Feng was waiting for, they did not believe that the will of the universe would respond. If it could really respond, countless people had asked the heavens for help before. Yet who had ever obtained its favor? Impossible. It was entirely impossible. Buzz! Ao opened its mouth and swallowed. The entire universe shook, and countless principles wailed. At this moment, Ao seemed to have swallowed another mouthful of the origin. The origin of the universe was damaged, and the power of all the principles continued to decline. Those divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors could clearly sense that the power of the principles had already weakened to an extreme. It was as if the principles would collapse if it became any weaker. Without principles, how could there be divine kings and divine venerables? Although they still had their combat bodies, and even if the principles collapsed, it would not affect divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors much. The collapse of the principles meant the collapse of the universe. If even the universe had been destroyed, as life forms in the universe, how could they still remain unharmed? How could any eggs remain intact when the nest was overturned? Everyone revealed a trace of despair. Master, let's escape quickly. There's still hope. There's still hope. Do you see the huge hole in the cosmic membrane? If we're lucky and can charge out of the universe and enter the chaos, we might still have a chance of survival. Enter the chaos. Lin Feng did not answer. He had been waiting quietly. On the other hand, some divine emperors beside him had a thought and heard Lang Da's words. Hence, some divine emperors who did not want to die just like that suddenly charged towards the gap in the cosmic membrane. Thud. However, before they could charge out of the universe, they were killed by the Ao's claw. Although the Ao was not too intelligent, the nearby territory belonged to it. How could it allow others to enter its territory? No, I can't die. I still want to transcend. Another divine emperor frantically used countless avatars, trying to confuse Ao with avatars. Unexpectedly, this method was very effective. He abandoned most of the avatars. One of the avatars suddenly charged out of the gap and entered the chaos. Haha! Chaos? I've entered the chaos. Huh? Impossible, how can this be? The divine emperor who was lucky enough to enter the chaos cried out in pain. Everyone saw very clearly that the massive body of the divine emperor was instantly drowned out by a massive amount of chaotic aura. After. There was no after. Dead. That divine emperor was dead. Swoosh. Everyone stared at Lang Da, their eyes even filled with killing intent. Lang Da did not dare to dally. He hurriedly said, if life forms in the origin universe rashly enter the chaos, without a strong enough physique, they will die to the saturation of chaotic aura immediately. But Master won't. Master's combat body is so strong that it can withstand the modification of the chaotic aura. Once you enter the chaos, you can immediately become a half-chaotic life form. However, pausing, Lang De glanced at Lin Feng guiltily. Remembering how he had almost been killed by Lin Feng previously, he did not dare to play tricks anymore. Hence, he gritted his teeth and said, "However, Master will probably stop at being a half-chaotic life form, and it will be difficult for you to ever become a chaotic life form. Although there were all kinds of backwardness in the origin universe, it was protected by the origin universe. There was a chance of transcendence. Once one transcended and entered the chaos, they could immediately metamorphose into a chaotic life form. This was also the greatest advantage of life forms in the origin universe. In contrast, life forms born in the chaos such as Lang De, who was at the peak of a half-chaotic life form, would almost be at their limit and would find it difficult to ever make further breakthroughs. The difficulty of metamorphosis for them was probably even higher than transcendence for life forms in the universe. However, between being unable to transcend and dying, Lang De definitely would not choose death. As long as he was alive, there would always be a chance. However, if he stayed in the origin universe forever, he would definitely die. Lin Feng did not say anything, and had already closed his eyes. However, this did not mean that he did not notice every move outside. If he entered the chaos and became a half-chaotic life form, even if he escaped successfully, what was the point? He had never forgotten his family and birthplace. He had never forgotten the meaning of guardian. Living ignobly by leaving others to their fates was not what he wanted. So what if he could rule the entire chaos and stand at the top in the future? If he could not even protect his birthplace and his family, what was the point of strength? At this moment, the scenes of facing the behemoth of Armageddon on his home planet seemed to flash through Lin Feng's mind. It was the same crisis of destruction, but at that time everyone on his home planet was united, and everyone fought to the death. This was because that was where they lived, their foundation. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire universe seemed to shake violently. Countless principles were resonating. This time, they were not wailing, but resonating. Principle of life, principle of space, principle of destruction, principle of killing, principle of tides. Too many principles were all resonating, as if they were welcoming something. A vast and great power descended from the depths of the universe and instantly enveloped Lin Feng. Moreover, a high and mighty voice echoed in Lin Feng's mind. Repel. Chaotic life form. Response. This was the response of the universe's will. This was the voice of the universe's will. Swoosh. Lin Feng opened his eyes. At the same time, countless principles were resonating violently. Lin Feng could easily control every principle. However, there was one more miraculous principle. It was invisible, as if it had warped over from a certain time and space, and manifested under the escort of a majestic power. The principle of time. This was the principle of time. Moreover, it did not just manifest. Lin Feng's consciousness was instantly pulled into the principle of time. Everything around him disappeared, and he seemed to have returned to his mother's womb. His mother was pregnant for 10 months before giving birth to him. Then, Lin Feng developed a strange illness. His family tried to think of a way to save Lin Feng at all costs. His father's lament, his mother's tears, his eldest brother's helplessness, his second brother's protection. All of this felt like Lin Feng was reliving what had happened when he was young. However, reliving the memories of his childhood now gave him a strange feeling. A faint warmth seemed to linger in his heart. Later, Lin Feng gradually grew up and went to school. However, unlike ordinary people, he knew that he had a strange illness and might die soon. Hence, he became antisocial and uncommunicative. It was until he met Chu Chen. The first time he saw Chu Chen, he was also amazed by her. Moreover, Lin Feng could clearly sense that his sister must have specially brought Chu Chen to meet him. The moment he saw Chu Chen, Lin Feng felt as if a beam of warm sunlight had shone down in winter. From that moment on, Chu Chen's figure had actually been deeply imprinted in the depths of Lin Feng's heart. Then, the scene switched to the moment Lin Feng obtained the metal ball in the library. The scene suddenly split into two. In one of the images, Lin Feng did not obtain the metal ball. As his strange illness worsened day by day, he also became more and more depressed. In the end, he was fated to not be with Chu Chun. Moreover, Lin Feng did not cultivate martial arts. After studying in university, he received treatment at home, but in the end, it was futile. His organs failed completely and he died. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He had thought of this scene countless times, but ever since he obtained the genetic fusion device, he had never thought of it again. He was bent on breaking the genetic lock, restructuring his cells, and curing his strange illness. Could this be his other life? Or was this another future of his? Lin Feng was very shocked. Another life, another future. He had never thought about what his life would be like without the genetic fusion device. Perhaps everything in the future would be lost. His life would be incomparably short and dark. He might never get to where he was today and see the wonders of the universe. When Lin Feng finished watching one of the two short scenes, he was immersed in the other. That scene was consistent with Lin Feng's memory. He had obtained the genetic fusion device, and from then on, he began to practice martial arts. He began to have hope of breaking the genetic lock. Everything was the same as in Lin Feng's memory, until Lin Feng encountered a crisis. The first time he broke the genetic lock, two more scenes appeared. In one of the images, Lin Feng did not break the genetic lock. Or rather, he failed to break the genetic lock and was devoured by the parasitic dire beasts. Then, the parasitic dire beasts wreaked havoc, turning Dragonlith City into a living hell. Without a doubt, this was another future, another life for Lin Feng. Moreover, at this moment it felt so real to Lin Feng. It was as if this future was real and possible. The scene continued. Lin Feng cultivated all the way. Just like in his memory, every time he encountered a critical moment, the scene would be divided into two. One was the original memory, and the other was a memory of Lin Feng's future. Those future memories did not end bleakly every time. There were still many future memories that were very heartwarming. However, Lin Feng could no longer reach the peak of cultivation, and lived peacefully with his wife and family for the rest of his life. That was also another kind of life. Lin Feng was completely immersed in the scene. After an unknown period of time, the scene returned to normal. Lin Feng's surroundings were hazy. Everything had disappeared. There seemed to be only haziness. A light screen enveloped Lin Feng. He extended his hand gently. As soon as he touched the light screen, countless images appeared in his mind. Some of them were related to him. They seemed to be memories, but also scenes of the futures he had seen. They were images of his other lives. Some were unrelated to him and seemed inexplicable, but there must be a deeper meaning behind them. Lin Feng was completely immersed in the scenes just now. Every scene was deeply engraved in the depths of his mind. At this moment, those scenes kept flickering in his mind, and countless thoughts intertwined. He seemed to have thought of something and tried to grasp it, but he was just a little bit short. The future, another life. If, Lin Feng muttered softly, if he had not obtained the metal ball back then, he would have lived another life. If he had not broken the genetic lock back then, he would have lived another life too. There were no what-ifs in the world. The hardest thing to find in the world was a cure for regret. If everyone could choose their what-ifs freely, wouldn't the entire world become incomparably chaotic? Swoosh! An idea flashed through Lin Feng's mind. It was like a bolt of lightning streaking through the night. He understood. He understood everything now. Rewind time. Wasn't the essence and true meaning of time retrospective? Right now, even Lin Feng could not return to the past, and could not change everything in the past. However, with the principle of time, it would be equivalent to a cure for regret in the world. He could return to the past through time. He could change everything. At that time, he would have infinite futures. The principle of time. This was the principle of time. The order of the entire universe was established on the principle of time. The other lives that Lin Feng had seen were actually not illusory, but truly existed. They really existed among the countless branches of the principle of time. This was the parallel universe theory mentioned by some technological civilizations. However, they had always been just theories in technological civilizations, and there was no real evidence. There was no evidence which proved the existence of parallel universes. Now, Lin Feng had seen through the essence of time. He knew that parallel universes really existed. Moreover, he finally understood why he was obstructed by the will of the universe when he tried to use 2,999 principles to deduce the principle of time. The reason was very simple. The will of the universe would not allow anyone to comprehend the principle of time at all. This was because once they comprehended the principle of time and possessed the ability to rewind time, and the ability to change the past, it would cause the collapse of the entire cosmic order. The principle of time was the beginning of all principles in the universe. It was also the foundation of all principles. If not for the fact that a chaotic life form like AO was constantly devouring the origin of the universe, threatening the will of the universe would not possibly allow Lin Feng to see through the essence of the principle of time. Moreover, even if he found the sacred stone of anathema, as long as the will of the universe did not allow it, Lin Feng would not be able to comprehend the principle of time. But now all the difficulties had been resolved. Under the threat of the chaotic life form, the will of the universe finally compromised. It even took the initiative to place the essence of time in front of Lin Feng. At this moment, time no longer held any secrets for Lin Feng. Boom! All the principles were shaking. The light screen around Lin Feng instantly shattered, and an incomparably mysterious principle appeared. It was invisible. Only Lin Feng could sense that it truly existed. The principle of time. This was the principle of time. At this moment, Lin Feng had comprehended 3,000 principles. The 3,000 principles were completely consummate. Stop time. Lin Feng reached out and pointed. Immediately, the entire universe seemed to have stopped completely at this moment. If Lin Feng wanted to, not only could he stop time, he could also warp back in time. However, warping back to the past and changing anything might cause a chain reaction. That would require a huge amount of cosmic energy for reparation and returning things to their normal paths. Once even the cosmic energy could not repair it, it would mean the collapse of the order of the universe. The entire universe would become incomparably chaotic. At that time, it would not be much better than the universe origin being devoured. However, even if Lin Feng warped back in time now, he could not resolve the threat of the chaotic life form AO. This was because AO was a chaotic life form, not a life form of the origin universe at all. It was not restrained by the principle of time in the origin universe. Hence, even if time was stopped or even rewound, the AO would not be affected at all. If Lin Feng rewound time, he might be able to break free from AO for the time being. However, once AO devoured the origin of the universe and the universe collapsed, countless parallel universes would naturally collapse, and the principle of time would also collapse. Lin Feng would not run. The will of the universe had given Lin Feng a chance to comprehend the principle of time, and it was not for Lin Feng to run. Transcendence. What Lin Feng wanted to do now was transcend, and he had to succeed. In the next moment, Lin Feng used his combat body. The extremely massive combat body stretched across the cosmos. Countless principles surrounded Lin Feng, illuminating each other. Even the faint universes will seem to be watching. Lin Feng took a deep breath. All kinds of images kept flashing through his mind. They were all the people he had met until today, including his parents, wife, friends, and so on. The things in the past were scenes he was deeply familiar with. The people who appeared in his mind were all people who he needed to protect. Be it for the origin universe or for his family, Lin Feng had to transcend. At this moment, Lin Feng's conviction also rose to the extreme. He no longer had any hesitation. Transform into a universe. Lin Feng's determined voice sounded in the cosmos at once. Boom! At this moment, Lin Feng's massive body exploded instantly and completely. At the same time, the principle of space suddenly descended and infused into Lin Feng's combat body in a strange way. In every inch of his flesh and every cell, space was constantly expanding and expanding further. Lin Feng was in a state between semi-conscious and lucid. A profound feeling arose spontaneously. It was as if he had transformed into a huge space. Now, it was only space, and his consciousness was stored within space. This was transforming into a universe. He had completely transformed into an enormous universe. However, if there was only the principle of space, Lin Feng was destined to fail. This was because when the space expanded to a certain extent, Lin Feng realized that his consciousness had already begun to blur. The huge space seemed to be empty, and there was no energy to support the entire space. Time. Lin Feng knew that if space was to metamorphose into a universe, there must first be time. Time was the foundation of everything, the source and the root of everything. In the past, Lin Feng did not understand, but now he did. Even the three basic principles were divided into levels. Time was undoubtedly the top of the three basic principles and the most important. When the principle of time appeared in space, there seemed to be a sense of spatial distortion. The entire space churned and shook violently, vaguely producing a strange power. Lin Feng suddenly realized that his transformation into a universe had actually gradually stabilized. Just because there was time, the entire space seemed to have become a true universe. Only with time could there be a beginning. Otherwise, it would always be a stagnant space, and could never be independent of the origin universe, let alone contend with it. Only with time could Lin Feng transform into a universe. In other words, Lin Feng's universe could only be considered born with the presence of time. Lin Feng's universe was born. This was a true universe. In the next moment, Lin Feng's consciousness seemed to be unable to hold out. His combat body collapsed and exploded. Lin Feng had actually frozen it with his powerful principle of space. However, he would not be able to hold out for long. At this moment, Lin Feng mobilized the principle of life in the universe again. Boom! Immediately, the principle of life in Lin Feng's universe churned continuously. An exuberant vitality was transmitted from the universe to Lin Feng's flesh and blood. Immediately, Lin Feng's consciousness, which was about to dissipate, quickly condensed again. As if he had consumed some great tonic, he became clear-headed once more. The three basic principles of time, life, and space constructed the basic framework of the universe. With these three principles, the universe would basically take shape. It would be a universe, not merely space. This is a universe? Lin Feng's voice echoed in the cosmos, then condensed again. Just like before, there was no earth-shattering scene. From the outside, it seemed to be the same as before. There was still a huge combat body, a terrifying aura, and 3,000 principles. If one had to say that it was different, it would be that Lin Feng's body was no longer as simple as flesh and blood. It was a universe, an enormous universe, a universe that had just been born and was still very primitive, and was constantly expanding. At this moment, the principle of time had already been withdrawn by Lin Feng. Those divine kings, divine venerables, and divine emperors were confused for a moment, but they could not remember what had happened just now. Supremacy, what happened just now? Supremacy. Is there really no way for us to deal with this chaotic life form? Many divine emperors were still unable to accept it. The principles of the universe was also wailing. The origin of the universe was being constantly devoured, and it was already becoming weaker and weaker. Repel. Chaotic life form. A mechanical, vast, and mysterious voice suddenly sounded in Lin Feng's mind. Lin Feng had already heard this voice. It was the voice of the universe's will. It seemed like the will of the universe could not hold out for long. Lin Feng himself did not know if he could be considered to have transcended now. However, he knew that he had probably succeeded in transforming into a universe. There was a space quietly floating in his body, and it was a universe that was constantly expanding. However, Lin Feng did not know if this could be considered transcendence. Moreover, according to Langda, even if one had transcended, as long as they had not entered the chaos and were not modified by the chaotic aura, they could not be considered a chaotic life form. And AO was a genuine chaotic life form. However, there was not much time for Lin Feng to think now. Without any hesitation, his massive combat body suddenly moved, and he pounced towards AO. Kill! Lin Feng did not even use the principles because the principles of the origin universe were useless against chaotic lifeforms. He only used his combat body to attack Ao. Boom! Lin Feng threw a punch at Ao, and Ao slashed down with its claw in disdain. Immediately, Lin Feng felt an extremely terrifying and almost unparalleled power destroy his combat body with ease. There was even a terrifying mutant power that tried to destroy his universe. Although Lin Feng's combat body was strong, it was still far inferior to a true chaotic lifeform. Before Ao, Lin Feng's combat body could not withstand a single blow. This is transcendence? Even Lin Feng did not quite believe it. How could a transcendent be in such a sorry state? He could not even contend against a single strike from a chaotic lifeform. Wasn't it said that even among chaotic lifeforms, transcendents were outstanding? Seeing that Lin Feng's combat body could not even withstand a single claw from Ao and exploded instantly, the divine emperors immediately despaired. It's over, it's over. Even supremacy lost. Chaotic lifeform. This is a chaotic lifeform. Apart from transcendence, who can be its match? Lin Feng was everyone's hope. Even Lin Feng, the strongest universe supremacy in history, had lost. Who could stop this chaotic lifeform? Only Lang Da's eyes flickered with a strange glint. Previously, Lin Feng had comprehended the principle of time and stopped time. Many divine emperors and divine venerables did not know what was going on. Only Ao, a chaotic lifeform, and Lang Da, a half-chaotic lifeform, were unaffected. Lang Da saw Lin Feng's combat body explode with his own eyes, and the birth of an extremely terrifying aura. Although he had never seen a transcendent before, he still felt that Lin Feng could not be so weak. Lin Feng might even have transcended. However, how could a transcendent be so weak? Even Lang Da was very surprised. Has Master transcended or not? Lang Da was not very certain either. However, regardless of whether Lin Feng had transcended or not, he could only hope that Lin Feng had transcended now. Otherwise, if the origin universe was destroyed, he would not be able to escape death either. Lin Feng's combat body collapsed. He was struck by Ao's claw. His massive combat body was like a fragile bubble, broken with a single poke. Compared to chaotic lifeforms, combat bodies in the origin universe were simply too weak. However, there was not a trace of confusion in Lin Feng's consciousness. He could sense the strange energy that belonged to Ao in his body. Previously, he had almost died. It was only by relying on the chaotic lotus seed to absorb the strange energy that he was lucky enough to survive. But now, just as that strange energy was about to corrode Lin Feng's core, a suction force suddenly appeared in the motionless universe in Lin Feng's body, instantly absorbing the strange energy into the universe. Then, there was no after. Lin Feng was completely uninjured. With the enhancement of the principle of life and the power of the principle in the origin universe, his combat body recovered instantly. This scene stunned even Lin Feng. This time, he did not rely on the chaotic lotus seed, nor did he rely on the principles. Just the universe in his body automatically devoured the strange energy, and the universe did not change at all. Transcendence, transcendence. This is transcendence. Even if I have yet to enter the chaos and metamorphose into a chaotic lifeform, the strongest aspect of a transcendent is not the combat body, nor the principle, but the universe. Lin Feng reached an epiphany. He understood. He understood everything now. He had transcended, truly transcended, but he had yet to master the power of a transcendent. Or rather, he still did not know where the true power of a transcendent lay. The universe. The universe within one's body was the strongest power of a transcendent. It was the foundation of everything in a transcendent. Just now, Lin Feng, a dignified transcendent, had actually used his combat body to resist a chaotic lifeform. Wasn't that matching his own weakness against his enemy's strength? The universe was the foundation of a transcendent. Swoosh! Lin Feng opened his eyes again, and his body condensed again. However, this time, Lin Feng did not even use his combat body. Chaotic lifeform? Suppress! Lin Feng shouted. Immediately, a terrifying aura emitted from Lin Feng's body, sweeping through the entire universe like a storm. In the cosmos, even the eye of the universe had appeared. However, there was a mysterious power that stopped the bombardment of the eye of the universe. The will of the universe was stopping the bombardment of the eye of the universe. This was because the will of the universe understood that Lin Feng was using the universe he had just born to suppress the chaotic life form and resolve the crisis of the origin universe. Rumble. The universe in Lin Feng's body had descended. All the divine kings, divine venerables, and even divine emperors felt suffocated. They looked at the huge universe in shock. It seemed very primitive, mysterious, and vast. It was completely different from the origin universe, and was marked with Lin Feng's life imprint. This was a universe that belonged solely to Lin Feng. He's transcended. The universe supremacy has transcended. The universe, this is the universe of the supremacy. Has the supremacy successfully transformed into a universe? So this is transcendence? It's just too daunting. He controls the power of the universe. Even if this universe is far inferior to the origin universe, it's still a complete universe. He possesses the complete power of the universe. Ha ha ha, he's transcended. He's really transcended. A transcendent has finally been born in our universe. Countless divine emperors were overjoyed. At this moment, they would not be jealous. They would only be very envious, very excited, and overjoyed. This was because only transcendence could deal with chaotic life forms and resolve this calamity for the entire origin universe. This was the first time Lin Feng had used the universe in his body, even though this was only a newborn universe. Even the space inside the universe was very limited and far inferior to Lin Feng's combat body. However, this was a true universe. Lin Feng could mobilize the power of the entire universe, which was even stronger than the will of the universe. Even the will of the universe could only mobilize at most 1% of the power of the universe. If the will of the universe could mobilize all the power of the origin universe, forget about a mere chaotic life form, even 10 more would be instantly suppressed. This was the true difference between the will of the universe and a transcendent. A transcendent could completely mobilize every ounce of power in their universe, 100% of it. Suppress. Lin Feng mobilized the universe in his body, and its power descended instantly, enveloping the chaotic life form, AO. The power of the universe suppressed AO madly. Immediately, AO seemed to sense the threat as well. It struggled wildly. Its 3 heads were shaking violently, and every strike was enough to pierce through the entire origin universe. However, Lin Feng's universe only shook slightly, and he could not break free at all. Retrieve. Lin Feng did not want to expose his internal universe too much to the origin universe. After all, his universe could already pose a threat to the origin universe. Even if the will of the universe stopped the process, the rules of the operation of the universe did not allow any power to threaten the origin universe. If the power of the principles of the origin universe attacked his universe while he was suppressing the chaotic life form, the gains would not make up for the losses. Hence, Lin Feng immediately retracted the universe into his body. At the same time, his consciousness was also immersed in the universe in his body, because the chaotic life form was still struggling continuously. Suppress. Lin Feng mobilized the power of the entire universe and suppressed the chaotic life form in a frenzy. Terrifying power surged out continuously from all directions, suppressing the chaotic life form in an overwhelming manner. Crunch. Even a chaotic life form could not withstand the suppression of the power of the universe. It had to be known that Lin Feng had just successfully transformed into a universe, and his universe was only a miniature universe. It was the weakest universe, but even so, it was enough to suppress a chaotic life form to the point of immobility. Gore! Ao roared furiously. It was already suppressed by the power of the universe to the point of being unable to move. However, in the next moment, its 3 heads quickly expanded and vaguely turned fiery red. Boom! The 3 heads opened their mouths and spewed out 3 balls of flames at once. Chaotic flames. These were chaotic flames. They were Ao's innate ability. It took countless years to accumulate such a large amount of chaotic flames. It had used some previously, but now that it was in danger, It had no choice but to spew out all the chaotic flames. The accumulation of chaotic flames was very difficult. It required years to accumulate enough chaotic flames bit by bit. However, it was all used up at one go now. Ao was also very furious and irritable. There was a ripping noise. The terrifying chaotic flames instantly sprayed on Lin Feng's cosmic membrane. Immediately, Lin Feng's universe began to shake violently, and then began to dissolve and collapse. This, Lin Feng was shocked. The universe was unstable. This was the instability of the universe. His universe had just been born, and he only had 3 basic principles, so this could be considered its weakest period. Ordinary transcendence would need to spend a long time stabilizing the universe at this stage, so that it's made incomparably stable. Lin Feng, on the other hand, had to deal with a chaotic life form. In particular, he was dealing with Ao, which had actually accumulated so much chaotic flames. This kind of chaotic flames could even penetrate the membrane of the origin universe. Even if Lin Feng's universe stabilized, he would still be greatly threatened, let alone now. The universe was burned by the chaotic flames. Lin Feng's universe immediately became unstable, as if it was about to collapse. Once the universe collapsed, Lin Feng, a transcendent, would also die. Steady! Lin Feng mobilized a large amount of cosmic power in a frenzy, trying to stabilize the universe. Unfortunately, the power of the chaotic flames was immense, and there was a chaotic life form struggling violently in the universe. At this moment, Lin Feng's universe seemed to be turned upside down. The universe could collapse instantly at any moment. The chaotic life form, Ao, was also struggling wildly, trying to escape from Lin Feng's universe amidst the chaos. If this happened, wouldn't Lin Feng's efforts be in vain? At this moment, the chaotic lotus seed that Lin Feng had never understood appeared in Lin Feng's universe without his realization. This chaotic lotus seed had actually already sprouted after devouring a trace of the strange energy from Ao back then. At this moment, it seemed to have sensed that Lin Feng was in danger, and the universe was in danger of collapsing. The chaotic lotus seed entered Lin Feng's universe. Moreover, its green shoot began to grow rapidly. Traces of roots instantly grew into Lin Feng's universe, absorbing Lin Feng's cosmic power and growing constantly. Lin Feng's eyes widened. He could clearly sense that the power of the universe was being absorbed by the chaotic lotus seed, but it was not the kind of absorption that made him feel threatened. On the other hand, this chaotic lotus seed seemed to be completely integrated with the entire universe. As it devoured a large amount of cosmic power, the chaotic lotus seed quickly took root and germinated, and began to grow into a huge lotus, the chaotic lotus. Lin Feng clearly remembered that it was the chaotic lotus outside the chaotic rift that gave him a chaotic lotus seed and saved him once. However, despite trying all kinds of methods to culture the chaotic lotus seed, Lin Feng could not succeed no matter what. Unexpectedly, the chaotic lotus seed had taken root and germinated in his universe now. Moreover, it had become one with the entire universe, and grew into a chaotic lotus. As the chaotic lotus took root in Lin Feng's universe and absorbed a large amount of cosmic power, the chaotic lotus actually spat out traces of mysterious power. Chaotic aura. Lin Feng had also devoured chaotic aura before. This was chaotic aura, and it was incomparably pure. It was countless times purer than the chaotic aura Lin Feng had devoured in the past. Nourished by the chaotic aura, Lin Feng's universe quickly stabilized. Even the huge hole burned by the chaotic flames slowly recovered. The universe was stabilized again. Moreover, as the chaotic lotus continued to take root in the universe, it seemed to connect the entire universe into one, becoming 10 times stronger than before or even more. Lin Feng did not know what was going on, but his intuition told him that this chaotic lotus was extraordinary. However, the top priority now was to deal with the chaotic life form, Ao. Suppress. With the chaotic lotus stabilizing the universe, Lin Feng no longer had anything to worry about. He immediately mobilized the power of the universe and suppressed the chaotic life form from all directions. Ao could not resist that terrifying cosmic power at all. Moreover, its chaotic flames had been exhausted, and it could not even struggle. There was a sound of wailing. The chaotic life form, AO, shook its 3 heads violently. Then, its massive body knelt on the ground, and its 3 pairs of pitiful eyes stared at Lin Feng. Great, great. I'm willing to submit. Just as Lin Feng was wondering if he should kill AO directly or continue suppressing it, a faint voice appeared in his mind. Moreover, it sounded very juvenile. Huh? You're AO. Lin Feng looked at the chaotic life form in front of him in surprise. It had 3 heads and looked incomparably sinister and terrifying, yet its voice actually sounded like a child. That's right. I'm AO. Great. I'm willing to submit. AO stammered as it spoke. It seemed that it did not have much intelligence. However, it did not struggle violently anymore. It seemed to have really submitted. Ultimately, it was a chaotic life form. If he could really subdue it, it would really be a great help. However, Lin Feng was not familiar with chaotic life forms. He did not dare to agree lightly. Stay here properly for now. Don't even think about escaping. With that, Lin Feng's consciousness left the internal universe and returned to the external body. He still had to ask Langda carefully about handling AO. Otherwise, rashly accepting a chaotic life form was not a rational move. Swoosh. When Lin Feng opened his eyes, he realized that countless expectant gazes were on him. Lin Feng naturally knew what the people with these expectant gazes wanted to know. The calamity is over. The corners of Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile. He glanced at everyone around him and said calmly, "The calamity is over? That chaotic life form is dead? I'm not sure, but that chaotic life form does seem to be gone. We're safe. The universe is safe. Transcendence. Supremacy has transcended. Why does he look no different from when he hasn't transcended? It's inexplicable. Perhaps only supremacy know the secret of transcendence." The many divine emperors were still lamenting when they realized that the universe supremacy, Lin Feng, had long disappeared. Even Langda had disappeared. However, no matter what, the universe was safe and the danger was resolved. As for the transcendence of the universe supremacy, Lin Feng, it had already become a legend that spread throughout the entire universe. Master, congratulations on successfully transcending. It's only a matter of time before you become a chaotic life form in the future. Lin Feng led Langda and warped space in the blink of an eye, returning to the secret chamber of the Universe Alliance headquarters. Others might not know, but it was impossible for Langda not to know. Only transcendence could deal with chaotic life forms. Lin Feng must have transcended. Otherwise, he could not possibly have resolved the calamity of the entire universe. You're quite quick-witted. A faint smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. Although Langda was afraid of death and loved to flatter, Lin Feng was in a good mood now. He actually vaguely felt that Langda's flattery was not bad. Langda AO said that he wants to submit to me. Can I believe it? Huh? Master, what did you say? AO submitted to you? Langda's entire body trembled. His face filled with disbelief. Not only was AO not dead, it even took the initiative to submit to Lin Feng. Was this possible? You don't believe me? Lin Feng could not be bothered to explain further. He grabbed Langda and threw him into his internal universe. Swoosh! Langda was caught off guard and thrown into Lin Feng's internal universe. It was pitch black everywhere, but it was a true universe, a complete universe. This is the universe. Langda was shocked. He had only heard of transcendence, but he did not understand them at all. Actually, there were distinctions among transcendence. It was unheard of for someone to be nurturing a universe in their body like Lin Feng. Master, this is your universe. That's right. Beside you is the suppressed chaotic life form AO. Lin Feng's voice sounded from all directions, like a deity that dominated everything. It made Langda have the urge to prostrate himself in worship. Even though Lin Feng had yet to metamorphose into a chaotic life form, the essence of life of a transcendent alone could actually crush a half-chaotic life form like Langda. Langda glanced at AO beside him. As expected, the other party could not move at all, looking pitiful. Congratulations, Master. AO is an impressive mount in the chaos. Countless powerful chaotic lifeforms yearn to have AO as a chaotic lifeform. Its strongest aspect is not actually its offensive ability, but its speed. AO's speed in the chaos is unimaginably fast. Moreover, Master, don't worry. AO's intelligence is average. Once it chooses to submit, its loyalty will be undying. Oh? Undying loyalty? Lin Feng was very pleasantly surprised. Then, he used the power of the universe to bring Langda and AO out of the universe. AO, I agree. From now on, you'll follow me, Lin Feng said calmly. As expected, AO no longer had that sinister and terrifying appearance. Instead, it became very docile. It prostrated himself beside Lin Feng in an affectionate manner. Langda, after the universe of the transcendent has been created, how should one cultivate? Langda shook his head and said, Master, how can I know about matters that involve great transcendence? However, with Master's strength, you can naturally metamorphose into a chaotic lifeform after entering the chaos. At that time, you can naturally travel the chaos and find cultivation methods. Enter the chaos? There's no hurry. Lin Feng shook his head. He had just transcended. Why would he be in a hurry to enter the chaos? After all, he had not even figured out his own universe. All right, Langda, go out first. Don't let anyone disturb me. Lin Feng moved Langda out and asked AO to guard him. During this period of time, he could see if AO was as loyal to him as Langda had said. Hence, Lin Feng immersed his consciousness in the internal universe again. He was in a hurry to fight AO and resolve the crisis of the origin universe just after transforming into a universe. Hence, he had yet to gain a good understanding of his universe. This is my universe. What a wonderful feeling. I have complete control over it, as if it's a part of my body. Lin Feng strolled through the universe. In this universe, he was the ruler of everything. No matter what it was, it would be suppressed by the universe. Moreover, he could mobilize the power of the entire universe, which was countless times stronger than his combat body. However, with a slight sense, Lin Feng realized that this universe was actually not that huge and was even rather small. In terms of light years, the diameter of Lin Feng's universe was only about 100 million light years. A diameter of 100 million light years was only equivalent to an ordinary divine emperor's combat body, but its power was countless times stronger. Even Lin Feng's past combat body as the universe supremacy was not worth mentioning in front of this universe. My universe is still too monotonous. Lin Feng walked around the universe and took a look. It was too barren and was not much different from the void region of the origin universe. However, on second thought, it made sense. Lin Feng had only used 3 basic principles to form the framework of the universe. Although the 3 basic principles were enough for transformation into a universe, the universe was not complete. At least, it was incomplete compared to the origin universe. However, Lin Feng had comprehended 3,000 principles, which were all the principles in the origin universe. Originally, Lin Feng thought that he could use them when transforming into a universe. He did not expect that transforming into a universe only required the 3 basic principles of time, life, and space. However, these 3,000 principles could be put to use now. Hence, as the ruler of the universe with a thought from Lin Feng, the various principles in the universe were added to the universe. Rumble. One principle after another was added to the universe. Immediately, the universe began to change drastically. Every principle was working hard to perfect Lin Feng's universe. The 3,000 principles were not useless. As Lin Feng added principles one after another, he realized that the universe seemed to have become firmer and was slowly increasing in power at all times. Even though the improvement was very slow, Lin Feng barely needed to cultivate to slowly improve. Lin Feng thought of the origin universe. Perhaps back when the origin universe was born, it was also desolate and empty. However, as the 3,000 principles perfected the origin universe, gradually planets, galaxies, black holes, and all kinds of celestial bodies were born in the universe for various reasons. Then, life gradually appeared on these planets. After billions of years, the origin universe developed to its current state. It was vibrant, incredibly whole and abundant. Lin Feng's universe was what the universe was like at the beginning of its birth. There were no planets, galaxies, black holes, or any celestial bodies, let alone any life. These would all require a very long time. However, as the 3,000 principles became complete, Lin Feng's internal universe would slowly develop and grow as the universe became more abundant and vibrant. Lin Feng keenly discovered that the universe was even slowly expanding, although the extent of expansion was very, very small. Nonetheless, it was expanding. This meant that while the universe was being perfected, it would also expand outwards and grow constantly. As the universe grew, Lin Feng's strength would also increase. In a sense, the universe was Lin Feng, and Lin Feng was the entire universe. By the way, where's the universe origin? Lin Feng had transformed into a universe, so this universe was a complete universe. It was completely different from the broken universe that the Divine Emperor of Silence and Divine Emperor Void Sky had transformed into. It was quite similar to the origin universe. The origin universe had a universe origin, which was the foundation of the universe. The chaotic life form AO fed on the origin of the universe and devoured it madly. Since they were both universes, there was no reason that Lin Feng's universe did not have a universe origin. Hence, Lin Feng released his consciousness. He sensed the universe origin carefully. He was the ruler of the universe, presiding over everything in the universe. This universe was no different from a part of his body. Thus, after only a moment, Lin Feng opened his eyes. A strange expression appeared on his face. Then, his figure flashed, and he teleported directly to the center of the universe. In the universe, Lin Feng was the omnipotent ruler. Wherever he wanted to go, he could do so with barely a thought. He could even rewind time, reconstruct the universe, and so on. He could do practically whatever he wanted. At the center, Lin Feng saw a huge lotus. It was the chaotic lotus. This huge chaotic lotus was rooted in the depths of the cosmos and was vaguely connected to the entire universe. Moreover, Lin Feng also knew why this lotus could grow so quickly despite not being in the chaos. Origin, the universe origin. This chaotic lotus had devoured the universe origin. Or rather, it had taken the initiative to fuse with the universe origin. From there, it could rely on the power of the universe origin to grow rapidly. This was how it could stabilize the universe in time when the universe was about to collapse and suppress the chaotic lifeform. However, was there no problem in the fusion of the universe origin with the chaotic lotus? Lin Feng observed carefully again and realized that there was nothing unusual about the chaotic lotus. It seemed to be under Lin Feng's control as well. However, if the chaotic lotus fused with the universe origin, it would probably be bound together with the universe in the future. Moreover, it would become the core of the entire universe. As for what the chaotic lotus would become in the future, Lin Feng did not know either. If only I could have someone to communicate with, or refer to the cultivation experiences of some other transcendence. Lin Feng shook his head. He was the first transcendent in the entire origin universe. He did not have any subsequent cultivation techniques at all, let alone experiences to refer to. Hence, he could only rely on himself to explore slowly now. However, it was too dangerous to explore cultivation like this. If he made a mistake accidentally, it would be very difficult to correct it in time in the future. Right now, Lin Feng could only observe the origin universe and imitate the origin universe for everything. Imitating the origin universe, a complete universe, could not be wrong. As for the future, Lin Feng naturally wanted to enter the chaos. Only by entering the chaos could he find the cultivation techniques of transcendence and not have to struggle to cultivate alone. However, before that, Lin Feng had something very important to figure out. It was the sacred stone of anathema. Although Lin Feng did not rely on the sacred stone of anathema to comprehend the principle of time, it did not mean that Lin Feng was indifferent to the sacred stone of anathema, let alone that the sacred stone of anathema was not miraculous. In reality, the sacred stone of anathema was very miraculous. Lin Feng even had a vague feeling that this sacred stone of anathema did not seem to be a product of the origin universe. If he could obtain the sacred stone of anathema and gather the fragments, he might be able to know the origins of the sacred stone of anathema and even its true use. Comprehending principles? Lin Feng had a vague feeling that the sacred stone of anathema was not just about comprehending principles. Currently, Lin Feng had already obtained 7 sacred stone of anathema fragments, and there were still 2 missing. In the past, Lin Feng had offered a reward for searching for the remaining 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments throughout the universe. Unfortunately, he still did not succeed in finding the remaining 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments. However, now that Lin Feng had transcended, things would be easier. How hard was it to find those small sacred stone of anathema fragments in all of the vast universe? However, for the current Lin Feng, especially after mastering the principle of time, this would not be difficult. This was because he could rewind time. Is it possible that the 7 sacred stones of anathema were once part of a whole? The sacred stone of anathema appeared in Lin Feng's palm. Each of the 7 sacred stone fragments had its own secret. Buzz. A mysterious power of the principle enveloped the sacred stone of anathema fragment. This was the principle of time. He wanted to rewind time and find the remaining 2 fragments of the sacred stone of anathema. However, as soon as he mobilized the principle of time, the eye of the universe vaguely appeared in the cosmos, emitting an inexplicable threatening aura. The principle of time could not be used lightly and might destroy the order of the universe. In the origin universe's current state, it could no longer withstand any more trouble. Don't worry, I'm just rewinding time. I won't change anything, Lin Feng said indifferently, but the eye of the universe in the cosmos still did not dissipate. Lin Feng frowned slightly, then said coldly, "So I've outlived my usefulness to you? If you couldn't kill that chaotic life form, how can you deal with my universe? Moreover, that chaotic life form isn't dead yet." Lin Feng patted Ao's head. Immediately, Ao's 3 heads roared towards the sky, and a terrifying aura attacked the eye of the universe in the cosmos. The eye of the universe expanded wildly. However, in the end, it seemed to have accepted reality and gradually dissipated. Of course, Lin Feng did not think that the origin universe had given in, but Lin Feng indeed had not harmed the origin universe for the time being. Once Lin Feng harmed the origin universe, the will of the universe would probably fight back with all its might. Lin Feng shook his head. He had no intention of harming the origin universe at all. What good would it do him if the origin universe collapsed? He had risked everything to protect the origin universe previously, so he naturally would not take the initiative to harm it. He just wanted to rewind time and find out where the remaining 2 sacred stone of anathema fragments were. Rewind. Lin Feng mobilized the principle of time. Immediately, time began to turn back. This was also the first time Lin Feng was rewinding time. He was also very curious. He felt that the sacred stone of anathema fragment in front of him emitted a faint green light when it came. Then, 7 images appeared around him at once. These 7 images represented each sacred stone of anathema fragment. Where it had stayed before was clearly displayed by rewind. This ability was truly incredible. Lin Feng was also amazed. With this ability, how could anything in the entire universe be concealed from Lin Feng? After billions of years, the 7 images gradually gathered, finally forming a complete sacred stone of anathema. A complete sacred stone of anathema. It's indeed a complete sacred stone of anathema. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He had succeeded. He had seen the complete sacred stone of anathema. The scene stopped here. Lin Feng memorized the location clearly and retracted the principle of time. Immediately, the surrounding scene changed. Lin Feng returned to the secret chamber. Since he already knew that the sacred stone of anathema was once complete, and he knew the location, Lin Feng did not hesitate anymore. He warped directly into a stretch of cosmos. This was the exact location of the complete sacred stone of anathema he had memorized back then. Rewind. Lin Feng used rewind again. The changes in this cosmos over billions of years all manifested through rewind. Finally, Lin Feng rewound it to the scene where the complete sacred stone of anathema appeared back then. This is the sacred stone of anathema. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He saw 2 fragments. If he grabbed the 2 fragments now, would he succeed? However, this would involve parallel universes and even the entire origin universe. Even though Lin Feng was very curious, he still gave up on such an action in the end. If the origin universe collapsed, he had no way to remedy it. Lin Feng stared intently at the two fragments of the sacred stone of anathema. He began to mobilize the principle of time, watching every move of the two fragments. Using rewind, Lin Feng could know where the two fragments had gone. Buzz! The scenes flashed again. However, this time, Lin Feng let time flow quietly instead of rewinding. The entire sacred stone of anathema had indeed flown in from the chaos beyond the universe. For some reason, it shattered instantly in the cosmos. Then, various fragments flew in all directions of the universe. Lin Feng stared intently at two of the fragments. Time passed quickly, and countless images appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Swoosh! At last, Lin Feng opened his eyes, and a smile appeared on his lips. Found them! After much hardship, by rewinding time, Lin Feng finally found the whereabouts of the remaining two sacred stone of anathema fragments. Buzz! In the cosmos, spatial ripples spread in all directions majestically. Lin Feng stepped out of the spatial passage. This is it. A planet in the wilderness. Lin Feng looked at a planet below. It was a planet in a primitive age. There were all kinds of terrifying giant beasts, and intelligent lifeforms were also born. Unfortunately, there were too few species with intelligent lifeforms, and they were too weak. They could only survive in the wilderness with great difficulty. No one would pay attention to such a barren planet. If the sacred stone of anathema fragment landed on this barren planet, what was the use of Lin Feng's universal bounty? Who'd have thought that the sacred stone of anathema could be on this planet? Without rewind, I'm afraid I'd never find the sacred stone of anathema fragment. Lin Feng shook his head. He had only found that the remaining two sacred stones of anathema fragments were on this planet by using rewind. Moreover, they were buried deep underground and would not be discovered by anyone at all. Since he had already found the location determined by the sacred stone of anathema, Lin Feng did not waste any more time. He extended his hand and reached into this planet suddenly. Boom! On the planet, countless gigantic beasts looked at the huge palm descending from the sky in panic. Even though they were not very intelligent, the threat of death from that huge palm made them all tremble. The huge palm slammed into the ground. Immediately, a fracture appeared in the ground, as if the entire planet was shaking. The huge hand reached into the huge fracture and grabbed gently. Two small fragments were captured. Then the huge hand disappeared, and the entire planet returned to calm. Those giant beasts all looked at the huge crack with their mouths agape. The fracture created by the huge hand like a deity was destined to become a wondrous sight on this planet. Sacred Stone of Anathema. Two fragments had already appeared in Lin Feng's hand. They were the last two fragments of the Sacred Stone of Anathema. Now, the 9 Sacred Stone of Anathema fragments had been gathered. Although they did not help Lin Feng to comprehend the principle of time and transcend, these Sacred Stone of Anathema fragments were of crucial importance to Lin Feng's path of cultivation. If Lin Feng had not obtained the Sacred Stone of Anathema fragment by chance back then, how could he have gotten to where he was today? Now, the Sacred Stone of Anathema fragments were finally going to show their true side. Even Lin Feng was looking forward to it from the bottom of his heart. Fuse! Lin Feng flipped his hand and took out the 7 Sacred Stone of Anathema fragments. All the Sacred Stone of Anathema fragments emitted a glowing light. Then, the last 2 Sacred Stones of Anathema began to slowly fuse into the 7 Sacred Stone of Anathema fragments. The fusion took slightly longer this time, but Lin Feng was not in a hurry. Instead, he waited quietly. Buzz. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt the Sacred Stone of Anathema in his hand shake violently. Then it emitted a strange aura. Lin Feng took a closer look. The Sacred Stone of Anathema in front of him had changed drastically, turning into an oval, bare and extremely round stone. There were also faint words engraved on it. Although Lin Feng was very certain that he did not recognize these words, the moment he saw these words, his mind naturally comprehended their meaning. Chaotic Origin Stone. Lin Feng did not know what it meant. Perhaps he could ask Langda. The true name of the sacred stone of anathema should be the chaotic origin stone. But what was the use of this chaotic origin stone? Lin Feng tried to manifest the principle of time, but it was useless. There was no law for the principle of time. It was just a principle. Either one could comprehend it or they couldn't. In other words, even if Lin Feng obtained 2 sacred stones of anathema, he would not be able to manifest the principle of time. Fortunately, Lin Feng managed to deduce the principle of time. Moreover, under the threat of the chaotic life form, by chance, the will of the universe helped Lin Feng to comprehend the principle of time. However, this chaotic origin stone looked rather extraordinary. It was already in its complete state. It was impossible for it not to have any effect. Hence, Lin Feng enveloped the chaotic origin stone with his mental power. Boom! Lin Feng's consciousness seemed to be pulled into a strange space. Everything was pitch black, hazy, and there was a large amount of gas. Lin Feng was very familiar with it. It was chaotic aura. Then, the large amount of gas began to explode. Infinite power was brewing. Next, it exploded with a bang. Traces of light appeared in the pitch-black space, and 9 faint beams of light scattered everywhere and disappeared. One of the beams of light flew into Lin Feng's body. It was this chaotic origin stone. Swoosh! Lin Feng returned to the cosmos. Just now, his consciousness had been pulled into the chaotic origin stone. However, when Lin Feng sensed around carefully, there did not seem to be any changes. What exactly is the chaotic origin stone? Lin Feng did not know. It seemed to be related to the chaos, but he had yet to figure out any use of the chaotic origin stone. However, since the sacred stone of anathema was complete, Lin Feng returned directly to the Universe Alliance headquarters. Langda! Lin Feng summoned Langda. Master, are you planning to enter the chaos? Langda was looking forward to Lin Feng entering the chaos all day long. In his opinion, this origin universe was too boring. If he was the only one here, and could do whatever he pleased and devour a large amount of cultivation resources, he would definitely be happy to do so. But Lin Feng would not allow him. Hence, Langda was very upset. Lin Feng glanced indifferently at Langda, ignoring the upset look in Langda's eyes. Instead, he asked calmly, Langda, do you know about the chaotic origin stone? Chaotic origin stone? It sounds like it might be related to the chaos, but I've never heard of it. However, Master, I'm just an ordinary half-chaotic life form wandering in the chaos. I can't even understand 1/10,000th of the information in the chaos. Only a great chaotic life form like you can come into contact with more information. As long as you enter the chaos, it won't be difficult for Master to know anything. I have my own plans for entering the chaos. Lin Feng waved his hand and let Langda leave. Although Langda did not know about the chaotic origin stone, just as Langda had said, Lin Feng could naturally take his time to inquire about it when he entered the chaos in the future. However, it was a pity that the chaotic origin stone could no longer manifest various principles like when they were separated back then. Originally, Lin Feng had wanted to leave the sacred stone of anathema for the descendants of his family. But that was impossible now. This was clearly a treasure from the chaos. Although he could not leave it for them, Lin Feng had already comprehended the 3,000 principles of the universe. It was much more comprehensive than the sacred stone of anathema. In the next period of time, Lin Feng made an effort to spend time with his family. Then, he demonstrated all kinds of principles to his son Lin Shang and daughter Lin Xian. In particular, he demonstrated the 3 principles of time, space, and life among the 3,000 principles. As long as they could comprehend any of the principles, it would be beneficial to the 2 of them. Even laws would do. Lin Feng was also very patient regarding this. Unfortunately, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, Lin Feng spent a total of 50 years accompanying his wife and family. He lived peacefully for 50 years. Over these 50 years, he also demonstrated the principles to his daughter and son. Unfortunately, the 2 of them could not comprehend a single principle. They did comprehend some laws, but they did not have any clue regarding the 3 basic principles of time, life, and space. Comprehending the principles also required natural aptitude. Some people, even with the sacred stone of anathema, would never be able to comprehend any principle in their entire lives. Lin Feng was rather resigned. Lin Shang and Lin Xian were basically stuck at the level of ultimate planetary lifeforms. It was impossible for them to become divine kings. Even if Lin Feng had all kinds of resources accumulated, there was nothing he could do. Master, master, when will we enter the chaos? It was Lang De again. Almost every 10 years, Lang De would ask about it, but every time he would leave in disappointment. However, this time, Lin Feng heaved a long sigh and said, "Soon. It's indeed time to leave." Lang Da's eyes lit up. After 50 years, it was finally time for them to leave. Lin Feng had already made all the arrangements in the past 50 years. Moreover, he was only leaving, and would still return in the future. However, he still wanted his family to make the choice. With Lin Feng's current abilities, even moving his home planet into his universe was a small matter. In other words, he could leave the origin universe with his home planet at any time. However, when he proposed this idea to his family, they unanimously opposed it. They, including his wife, only wanted to stay in the origin universe. This was their home and their foundation. Everyone they knew was here. They could not part with the origin universe. Lin Feng immediately understood. Since his family had chosen to stay in the origin universe, he did not object. Moreover, he had the principle of life and could inject life force into his family. Even if billions of years passed, the lifespans of his family would not be a problem. He could still return at any time, and his family was in the origin universe. Then, the origin universe would be Lin Feng's foundation. No matter where he went to in the chaos in the future, the origin universe would be his foundation. Lang De, let's get ready to leave the origin universe and enter the chaos. Facing the chaos, Lin Feng was also filled with curiosity. He had already made all the arrangements and had nothing to worry about. Now, Lin Feng only wanted to roam the chaos and see more wonders in the chaos. Lin Feng took a deep breath and took a step forward with Lang De and Ao, arriving at the end of the universe. Beyond the end of the universe was the vast chaos. Buzz. Just as Lin Feng was about to blast open the cosmic membrane, the eye of the universe appeared in the cosmos. Lin Feng suddenly smiled and said loudly, "I'm originally a living being of the origin universe, but since I've already transcended, you can't stop me. Open up the cosmic membrane, lest my power is too strong and damages the universe origin." Lin Feng knew that the origin of the universe was actually not an unfeeling program, but had a little sentience, and was capable of simple communication. Of course, even communication depended on the individual. Only a transcendent like Lin Feng, who even the origin universe could not do anything to, could communicate with the will of the universe. As expected, as soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, the eye of the universe did not disappear. However, a hole gradually appeared in the cosmic membrane, and one could clearly see the chaos outside the universe. Lin Feng took a deep breath and glanced at the universe behind him again. There was no knowing how long this departure would take. He wanted to take another good look. Swoosh! Lin Feng closed his eyes and no longer hesitated. Then, he stepped out of the origin universe. Swoosh! Lin Feng took a step forward. He had already left the origin universe and was in chaos. There was chaotic aura everywhere. It was pitch black and impossible to see clearly. When he turned around, he saw an extremely massive cloud lying quietly in the chaos. This was the origin universe. Looking at the origin universe from the outside, it was incomparably mysterious. One could not help but want to enter and investigate. Unfortunately, the origin universe had already closed the door to Lin Feng. Of course, with Lin Feng's status as a transcendent, entering the origin universe was a piece of cake. Even the universe could not stop him if it wanted to. However, since Lin Feng had already left the origin universe, he naturally would not return for the time being. How comfortable! I finally returned to the chaos. Lang De, on the other hand, appeared very satisfied. He was finally breathing in the chaotic aura again. He felt that his entire body was very comfortable. Even Ao beside him seemed to be invigorated. In the chaos, it was the true chaotic life form. However, Lin Feng frowned. Something was wrong. Something was too wrong. This was because the moment he stepped out of the origin universe and entered the chaos, he actually felt a heavy pressure. The surrounding chaotic aura was simply pervasive, as if it was corroding his body. If not for the fact that his combat body was very strong to begin with, he would probably have been corroded by the chaotic aura and completely blown apart. No wonder Langda had once said that if one's physique was not strong enough, they were courting death by entering the chaos. Not just any living being could enter this chaos. Combat body. Lin Feng wanted to deploy his combat body, but as soon as he deployed a little of his massive combat body, he actually felt infinite pressure. The larger the combat body, the stronger the pressure. Crunch. Finally, his combat body could not take it anymore and began to collapse. It had to be known that Lin Feng was not in the origin universe now. He did not have the principle of life and was no longer immortal. Once he died in the chaos, he would really be dead. Is the chaos this dangerous? Lin Feng's expression changed. He had just entered the chaos and had yet to do anything, and he was already in danger. Seeing Lin Feng's state, Langda hurriedly said, Master, don't try to resist the chaotic aura. If you want to enter the chaos and establish yourself in it, you have to be modified by the chaotic aura. Master, you're a transcendent. Once you're modified, you'll be a true chaotic life form. Chaotic life form? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. That's right. He had forgotten. Langda had once said that once a transcendent entered the chaos, they could become a chaotic life form. It turned out that Lin Feng was about to metamorphose into a chaotic life form now. Previously, when Lin Feng transcended, he only had an additional universe in his body. If he wanted to metamorphose into a chaotic life form, he had to rely on the infinite chaotic aura and some unspoken rules in the chaos to become a chaotic life form. With Lang Da's reminder, Lin Feng stopped resisting. He even let go of his combat body completely. Boom! Finally, under the pressure of a large amount of chaotic aura, Lin Feng's combat body collapsed completely. The combat body that was originally billions of light years in size was instantly destroyed by a large amount of chaotic aura. Endless chaotic aura invaded Lin Feng's body as it underwent the most fundamental modification. If Lin Feng could not withstand it, he would die. However, Lin Feng was a transcendent. Even if he was not in the origin universe, he still had the enhancement of the cosmic power in his body. Hence, even though his combat body had collapsed, and his body was filled with infinite chaotic aura, he had the power of the universe in his body to protect his core consciousness, allowing the chaotic aura to constantly modify it. Gradually, Lin Feng's body was reconstructed in the chaos. The muscles, bones, and every cell in his body were completely replaced by chaotic aura. Even Lin Feng's blood turned into chaotic aura. If one wanted to metamorphose into a chaotic life form, they had to transcend, or be able to withstand the most thorough modification by the chaotic aura. Langda could not withstand it, so it was very difficult for Langda to become a true chaotic life form. Without special opportunities, being a half-chaotic life form was almost Langda's limit. As Lin Feng's body was constantly modified, Lin Feng's body was gradually reconstructed. His appearance was about the same as before, but he seemed to be even more handsome, with a faint air of nobility. In fact, his combat body of billions of light years had completely collapsed. The current Lin Feng was the size of an ordinary person, but he was a chaotic life form. A true chaotic life form was no longer made of flesh and blood. His entire body was filled with chaotic aura. Lin Feng had already become an energy life form. Chaotic life form? So this is the intrinsic enhancement of life. From a flesh and blood life form to an energy life form, the entire body is completely composed of chaotic aura. Every move one makes is incomparably compatible with the environment of the entire chaos. Even a casual strike is extremely powerful. Lin Feng finally understood what a chaotic life form was, and why chaotic life forms were so powerful. The fundamental reason was the chaotic aura. The chaotic aura itself was countless times stronger than all the power in ordinary origin universes. Back then, even a trace of chaotic aura could improve Lin Feng's combat body by a lot. Moreover, there was no knowing how much chaotic aura there was in his body now. How could that power be weak? Lin Feng felt that every move he made seemed to contain infinite, majestic power. It could easily blow up even the origin universe. Even if he faced AO now and did not use the power of the internal universe, he was not afraid. This was what it meant to be a chaotic life form. Congratulations, Master. You've become a true chaotic life form. Lang De hurriedly went forward to congratulate Lin Feng. Just as the legends had said, once a transcendent entered the chaos and was affected by the chaotic environment, they could naturally metamorphose into a chaotic life form. Looking at the surging chaotic aura on Lin Feng's body, Lang De was very envious deep down. Chaotic life form. His lifelong goal was to become a chaotic life form, a great entity. Unfortunately, after wandering in the chaos for so many years, he was still only a half-chaotic life form. He did not even have a trace of hope of becoming a chaotic life form. It was different for Lin Feng. However, a life form that was born in the origin universe and came from it could actually become a chaotic life form naturally. It was impossible not to be jealous. However, recalling what he learned about Lin Feng's rise to power back in the origin universe, it was also filled with difficulties. Lin Feng had experienced countless hardships before rising to power in the origin universe and becoming a universe supremacy. Not to mention that he still needed to cross the hurdle of transcendence. It was not much easier than becoming a chaotic life form. Although Lang De was a little envious, he was very excited deep down. He had now become the servant of a great chaotic life form. His status and identity had both risen with it. Why would he be afraid of not having any opportunities in the future? As long as he followed Lin Feng, perhaps he, Lang De, could also become a chaotic life form in the future. At this moment, Lang De had already made up his mind. He had to cozy up to Lin Feng no matter what. This was someone he could rely on, a transcendent from the origin universe which was incomparably rare in the entire chaos. Lin Feng's future prospects were boundless, and definitely did not stop at being an ordinary chaotic life form. Lin Feng did not know that many thoughts were flashing through Lang Da's mind at this moment. He was familiarizing himself with his new chaotic body. When he underwent metamorphosis just now, he had relied on the power of the universe to keep his consciousness undying and successfully become a chaotic life form. However, Lin Feng knew that his foundation was the universe in his body, not the chaotic body. Hence, Lin Feng immediately immersed his consciousness in the universe within his body. What's going on? When Lin Feng saw the scene in the internal universe, a strange expression actually appeared on his face.